Hey guys, Simon here bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. In today's video, let's visit the story of one of Magic's lesser known yet somehow extremely popular planeswalkers, the clever and swift-fingered Dack Fayden. Who exactly is this Robin Hood-esque figure, and why haven't some of you heard of him? Let's answer those questions in this Planeswalker Profile. In his youth, Dack Fayden grew up on the plane of Fiora. In the shadow of the plane-spanning city, Paliano, he was one of the few who lived outside this monolith's political discord. His home was a small backwater village known as Drakestone, and while it existed beyond the walls of Paliano, it was by no means free of its influence. You can check out my full story on Paliano in this video here, but to keep it short, the councils who rule Paliano passed laws which the citizens of the entire plane were bound to obey. This includes the citizens of Drakestone. As a teen, Dack showed a great gift for the magical arts, learning difficult spells and becoming adept with mana quickly and at a very young age. His magical prowess was accelerated thanks in part to his innate Psychometry Abilities, a rare and unique gift bestowed upon him from birth. Psychometry is the capability to absorb knowledge from objects simply by holding them. This of course came in handy as Dack was learning about spellcraft. Simply holding a scroll or enchanted artifact was enough for them to spill their secrets, granting him their knowledge with little effort. This ability also allowed Dack to see events objects were used in, as if he were seeing them unfold through the user's eyes. With this gift, it's no surprise that Dack quickly became one of the best in his class when he joined the Magical Academy. Rising in the ranks, he befriended the second best mage among his peers, a man named Marsh. Although they were rivals, they quickly became close, as their relationship pushed each other to ever greater feats. But, as it happens too often, early greatness is typically spoiled by the arrogance it inspires. While the two young mages were very skillful, they lacked wisdom and experience, leaving them reckless. One night, after exams, the duo went out to the bars looking for an excuse to cause trouble. Trouble quickly found them. They were approached by a gang of ruffians, none too happy to see the cocky young mages enter their neck of the woods. A fight broke out, both Dack and Marsh stunned that the gang was also versed in magical combat. Even so, the talented pair looked to easily win the encounter. Having spent so much time fighting with spells, this being another typical case, Marsh was unaware that one of his opponents had pulled a blade. Marsh, inexperienced with hand-to-hand combat, was stabbed through the gut by the bandit's sword, leaving him to die on the streets of the city. Dack froze at the sight of his fallen friend, opening himself up to an attack. The gang threw their strongest spell at the stunned youngster, leaving him smoldering next to the body of Marsh. It was at this point that Dack's spark ignited, ascending him as a planeswalker and freeing him from the gang's death blow. It's unclear which planes he initially traveled to as a new planeswalker, but we do know that his life changed dramatically. Dack eventually found his way back to Fiora and his home of Drakestone, but he wasn't the same man as before. Now, he was more humble after learning the tragedy that can befall arrogance. In Drakestone, he had nothing. He was no longer the mage on the rise. He turned to thievery just to survive. As it turned out, Dack was also skilled in this trade, quickly becoming versed in the tools and techniques required to be a master thief. In the great city of Paliano, where thievery is somehow not outlawed, Dack made an amazing living for himself, until he reconnected with an old love. This was a girl he grew up with in Drakestone, Meryl, and after coming together from years of being apart, the two quickly formed a relationship. Dack took her under his wing and began teaching her his new profession, turning Meryl into another skilled thief. But, as they grew together, the uncertainty and risk of Dack's lifestyle was too much for her to bear, especially while in the capital. They moved together back to Drakestone, but Dack found the pickings there too small for him to make a living. He was forced to find another solution. He turned again to his gift, the Planeswalker Spark. Perhaps he could travel to other worlds and steal great artifacts, treasures he could sell on Fiora. That way, he wouldn't be pursued by the local law enforcement, and these otherworldly goods would likely fetch a high fence on Paliano. His multiversal heights brought him to the world of Alkaba, a little-known plane of strict laws and brooding savages. On Alkaba, Dack found a powerful artifact which would command a high price, but ran into trouble with the artifact's guardian. Unable to escape, Dack suffered horribly at the hands of this guardian, beating him badly and leaving him for the local guards who took him to the dungeons to await justice. At this time, Dack didn't fully understand his planeswalking ability, and the attack left him unable to tap into its power and free himself. He was forced to endure torture, painful acts which permanently scarred his body, most notably his right hand. The ritual not only caused excruciating pain, but also stained his arm red, branding him forever as a thief. Eventually, Dack was again able to tap into his planeswalking abilities, freeing him from Alkaba, but not after the world left its mark. Upon returning to his beloved home, Drakestone, Dack arrived to a massacre. The entire village had been killed and put to the torch. He walked the streets, spotting the bodies of his friends, peers, neighbors, but nothing hurt more than seeing the lifeless corpse of his loving Meryl. The pain sent Dack fleeing into the wilds, filling him with guilt and anger. He vowed from that day on to hunt and kill the people responsible. His life continued from that point on, doing as he would normally, stealing from Fiora and the great worlds beyond, amassing great wealth and knowledge with each theft and trade. Eventually, he stumbled into the plane of Ravnica, a city plane so familiar to his own that he found it quite comfortable, deciding ultimately to settle there for a while. Ravnica was perfect for Dack. The bustling underbelly of the city provided him with connections to other thieves, while the constant patrol of spies and informants kept many would-be prosecutors at bay. Yet Ravnica had more secrets than Dack could ever imagine, and one would change his life forever. It all started with a small dagger he stole from the cult of Rakdos. Upon holding the blade, the dagger's memories became Dack's. He saw everyone who had ever used the weapon, including a planeswalker who used it to murder the people of Drakestone. Through his power, Dack learned that the planeswalker was a woman named Sipha Grant. Although her motive was still unclear, he did discover that she gave the dagger to the Rakdos to secure their loyalty. Yet this was only a front. Grant really just didn't want the dagger getting into the hands of another planeswalker, one who might return the dagger to its home plane, the dark world of Innistrad. Dack dropped everything and traveled to Innistrad in search of more clues to this mysterious Grant. Little did he know, Grant was much closer than he thought. She had formed an alliance with the vampiric family known as the Falkenrath, vampires who quickly ran into Dack when he first traveled to the Dark World. Dack easily dealt with the vampires, earning him the displeasure of the Falkenrath and tipping Grant off to his presence. Yet, through his efforts, Dack befriended those who fought against the vampires' opulence and blood-crazed savagery, the humans of Innistrad. Cathars flocked to Dack's side, looking to join him in the fight to come, a fight that would take them to Falkenrath Castle and Grant. When he and his allies arrived, they found nothing but some animated skeleton guards. Grant was nowhere to be seen. Later, when they infiltrated the castle, they learned that Grant was in fact headed to the human village where Dack was staying, willing to kill everyone there just to get her hands on Dack Fayden himself. Quickly, the group retreated to the village to protect the innocent people there, arriving just in time to find Grant rounding the people to the village center, just as she did in Drakestone. With her undead minions, Grant was ready to destroy the village until Dack and his Cathars showed themselves. Using his great magical arsenal, Dack managed to scatter Grant's forces to the wind, protecting the people of the village from harm, but also offering Grant an opportunity to escape. Dack valued the lives of these innocent people more so than his personal revenge, but this conflict was far from over. All this trouble they caused on Innistrad drew some attention, however. The self-proclaimed Lord of Innistrad, the vampire planeswalker Soren Markov, had arrived to claim something that was originally his. The dagger used by Grant and now in the possession of Dack, known as the Ancient Fang, was Soren's possession and he wanted it back. Since he learned everything he could from the Fang, he agreed to hand it over only if Soren provided him with more information on his target. Soren agreed, saying all he knew of Grant was that she hailed from a plane known as Grixis. With this knowledge, Dack relinquished the blade to Soren and left Innistrad. Continuing the hunt, Dack arrived on Grixis, a small plane shard prior to the conflux of Alara. There, he ran afoul with the demon Malfagor, who looked to steal the planeswalker's spark for himself. Through the artifacts on Grixis, Dack discovered much of Grant's origins as a planeswalker, but nothing that could tell him about her plans or where she may have run off to. Before Malfagor could make due on his theft, Dack returned to Ravnica to find out what Grant wanted with the Rakdos in exchange for the Ancient Fang. When he arrived, however, he discovered that her plan was already set in motion. She had the Rakdos attack Dack and all his known associates, trying to get the planeswalker any way she could. During this, Dack found that invitations to the rejuvenation of the city tree Vitu-Ghazi were falling into the wrong hands, the hands of Gwent's forces. Vitu-Ghazi is a powerful source of life to those in the Selesnyan Conclave, and it was Gwent's plan to take the tree's life force for herself. Dack gathered his own motley crew of known thieves and ruffians to defend the city tree from Gwent's forces, while he sought to fight the Death Mage himself. They met atop the great tree and started fighting, both being very skilled in the deadly magical arts. Dack was staggered by Gwent's power, however, and was starting to wane, but as was true when Dack's friend Marsh died years before, so was true now. Powerful mages sometimes underestimate a simple blade. As she was focused on her spells, Gwent wasn't aware of Dack's ally coming up behind her, blade in hand. The man plunged it deep into the Death Mage's back, at the cost of his own life. Gwent laid there dying, sucking what life she could from Vitu-Ghazi to keep herself alive, but Dack wouldn't allow it. He used his most powerful spell to end the Death Mage's life and finally exact his revenge. From there, Dack kinda floated around without a purpose, as it's true for many who live only out of vengeance. Once the deed is done, it's actually a hollow victory. He continued living on Ravnica, putting his skills to good use while also finding time to help his adopted home when he could. Of course, making a little profit on the side. He heard that the Boros Legion had come to possess a magical gem, which rumored to grant some insane power to the faction who controlled it. With this weapon at their disposal, the Boros could assert their dominance over the rest of Ravnica, disrupting its balance. Dack couldn't allow this, so he decided to liberate the artifact. He broke into the Boros Keep of Sunhome, but was tracked down by angel enforcers before he could locate the gem. Never one to leave empty-handed, Dack swiped the closest thing he could from their archives and left before he was captured. However, this wasn't some random dusty statue. It was a strange gauntlet which whispered in his ears, speaking to him of great power, showing him images of a vast and ancient being. It was all too cryptic and foreign for Dack to understand, but through his unique ability, he was able to decipher a few key clues. First, the gauntlet was incomplete, and second, the other piece of the puzzle could be found in a cave on the plane of Theros. Tempted by the lulling of power, Dack traveled to Theros to complete the gauntlet. After helping a few people out on the plane, he managed to hire a captain and a ship to take him to the island he's seen in his vision, a landmass with no name, but a reputation for being haunted. Fearlessly, or stupidly, Dack made it to the cave of his dreams. Only his dream didn't say anything about the countless human skeletons that were thrown about the entrance. Regardless, he entered and found the second piece that completed the gauntlet, a metal arm guard. Of course, it wouldn't be that easy. He was attacked by a witch and a gorgon, managing to barely escape with his life. Again, nothing is ever simple when it comes to Dack Fayden. As his ship entered the open ocean, they were attacked by a giant kraken. This time, there was nowhere to run, so Dack decided to fight. Mused by the power of the gauntlet, Dack put it on and was infused with its raw power. The gauntlet allowed him to easily destroy the sea monster, saving himself and the ship's crew. Back on the mainland of Theros, Dack started vigorously studying the ancient gauntlet. What was its power? Where did it come from? Why did it call to him? All pressing questions. But another mystery had sprouted up on Theros at this time. They called it the Sleep Curse. Sure, Dack had nightmares before, but nothing like this. They were so real and disturbing. It plagued the vast majority of Theros, and there seemed to be no cure. Once you're infected, you'll eventually sleep and never wake again. Now Dack was infected himself. Not willing to give up so easily, Dack went to find someone who could help cure him and the others of this sleep curse. It's unknown what's happened to him from this point on, but he was last seen entering a portal to Theros' underworld, the realm of Erebos. And that, guys, is all the lore we currently have on Dack Fayden. Now, remember in the beginning of the video when I said many of you may not even know who Dack Fayden is? Well, that's because he's not a mainstream Planeswalker. His story was heavily featured in an MTG comic series, and his only card was ever printed with the limited conspiracy set. Regardless, Dack Fayden has become one of the community's most cherished characters of recent memory. But the question now is, what will he do in the underworld of Theros? Perhaps he'll do what he does best and steal something. Perhaps a soul we all know is down there right now. That's right, maybe he'll have something to do with the return of Elspeth Tirel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you enjoy this thieving Planeswalker? If you enjoyed the vid, please consider throwing it a like and subbing to the channel. You can also follow me on all the social medias, find links to those in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.